is a school and what is an organization? Let's state the obvious. An organization is a social unit. A school is an institution of learning. That's how we all knew it. Today, we are looking at schools as a building with 4 walls, which has tomorrow inside. I don't want this to sound as a cliche, but the fact of the matter is, and Dr. Chona referred to it earlier, that when we are in schools and we are educators, we are performing a salutary role. Because the great CEOs of tomorrow, as Dr. Chona rightly mentioned, never forget what they learned at school. In the same way, organizations too have undergone a change. Organizations are no longer static, they are living, they are breathing, and very significantly, they are growing in a path that is not linear. Schools too never grow in a linear manner. Schools either get better or they get worse. They never stay at status quo. Let's look at the other similarities between schools and organizations. Organizations are run by objectives. It's a management by objectives. To many of you in the audience, words like turnover, growth, sale targets, R&D are probably very familiar. What do schools have? Schools are vision and mission driven. They are driven by their values. They are driven by the fact who are they here to serve. They are driven by the fact that they are looking at both the process and the product. Schools and organizations all have stakeholders. For the school, the stakeholder, the biggest one, is the student, the teacher, the parent. Everybody is a stakeholder. Like all organizations have to manage their stakeholders, make complex decisions, satisfy their stakeholders, and at the same time, continue to ensure that there is a synergy amongst the stakeholders. Are schools any different? Definitely not. Can any teacher hope to be successful in a classroom if she and the parent are giving different messages at home? I know Mr. Shahpuri earlier referred through this day to some training for parents. And I, as a parent and as a teacher and as an educator, always say that parenting in the 21st century is probably the toughest role. And unfortunately, no training manual. No training manual. Hit and error, hit and trial. You get it right with one child, you don't get it right with the other. So managing that complexity has to be the role of the school leader. Maybe as complex, or maybe even more complex than that of a CEO like Dr. Chona, who was running a school with 10,000 students. Change, as everybody's told you, is here to stay. The only constant in life is change. Be the change you want to see. What does change do to our lives and how do we respond to it? As schools and organizations, we are caught up in that change. Whether, to use a business term, we are doing a pest analysis of political, social, economic, technological factors, schools are not untouched by it. And for a rising India, which had upset a previous American president because he felt the world was going hungry because the Indian middle class had become rich, the bottom line is that there is an aspirational middle class which for the right reasons wants to give their children a right to a decent education, a right to a decent livelihood. Globalization has arrived. MNCs have arrived. Innovation, creativity, and improvisation. Can any school, can any teacher, can any parent, can any company leader, can any school principal hope to lead an organization or a school that is static? Certainly not. Creativity is the order of the day. But does it mean that every principal or every leader is doing all the innovation himself or herself? Does every good idea get translated into reality? Definitely not. Herein lies the role of the leader. What does the leader do through a change process? What does the leader do to encourage creativity? You reculture the organization. You reculture the ethos and values of the organization when it is going through a change process. You ensure that you encourage people to be risk takers. I know we've been to conferences where we pontificate about what content should we teach in NCERT. We are missing the point. We don't know in 2050 what jobs will be available. Let us train students to be thinkers, inquirers, risk takers, decision makers. It doesn't matter whether they've got the content sorted or not. Probably it'll be relevant 30 years from now. Quality assurance. The speaker before me was talking about the need for quality. Can we say that a JRD Tata needed quality less than a principal of an international or a local or a government school? Definitely not. Quality assurance is a key because especially when you're in a school, what are you defining the quality of? in the most fundamental way, you are defining the quality of the future. And if you don't pay heed to it, it's going to come and bite you, because mediocrity does not work. And the thought I'd like to leave you with, Thomas Jefferson once said, every generation needs its own revolution. We've seen a quiet revolution in education. We've moved, in decades, we've moved from where we were to where we are. But I'd like to make a point. There are some things that shouldn't change. For the first, schools are safe havens for children. I know there are students who are going through turbulent times at home. What is the parent's immediate response? Let him go to school first. Send him to school. Schools are and should remain places where children feel safe, they feel valued, they feel encouraged. Secondly, if there is one relationship that is important, and that I'm sure is important in every company, in every organization, is that of the Guru-Shishya. Whether it is the chairman who has the MD as the understudy, whether it is the principal who has somebody else as an understudy, or a student, that relationship, as we know, is defined by mutual respect. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is something that should not change in this revolution. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.